high school, we watched The Lorax, and then I accidentally drank alcohol, so. I didn't tell you this story?
No.
Oh, remember the one time my mom got me in the shower with my boyfriend in high school?
Yeah.
Welcome to Recapping Romantasy, hot takes on hot literature. Who are we?
We are me, Emma.
I am Maura.
And I am Tabitha. Recapping Romantasy contains mature content from fairy smut to dragon rider torture to monster genitalia. Be sure to check the episode notes for content warnings and the links to our socials. Today, we are reading A Taste of Golden Iron by... Who wrote this?
I don't know.
Alexandra Rowland, I think, is her name.
Howland?
Howland, I think.
Hold
Did
on.
we?
Mom, why are you texting me?
We are so unprepared all of a sudden.
Wait. Alexandra Rowland.
Rowland. Okay.
Okay.
Alexandra, I believe.
Alexandra. She's actually not a she. She's
Girl.
a they.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Dude,
I went to her website, their website,
Yeah.
and that's how I discovered. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known. So.
So this is a book that I recommended us to read right from the outset of this podcast. The magic element of it is pretty small.
Yeah.
But
teeny.
yeah, it's basically you can only do magic in very, very small ways.
Very, very, very specific ways.
I was a huge fan of it. And what to keep in mind in this fantasy world is that they're using a framework of Turkish culture specifically. Also, guys, there's so much world building in this. It is more world building than plot.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think. Actually, I think it's probably more like interpersonal relationship stuff. It's more romance than it is fantasy.
Yeah, for sure. I think all of the like extra details that I will talk about my feelings about them later. That is all like world building relevant. It's not plot relevant.
No.
You could definitely
Plot really takes a background on this book, I think.
For sure. I remember like the last third I was reading and I was like, are we just going to forget about these two people that we like arrested 4 chapters ago?
Same. Talk about them.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They were like,
oh, they were found, guys. Everything's cool. I was like, wait, how did that happen?
hey, everyone, we arrested them. Okay. Where are they?
Like, quickly, let's just do like a really quick court trial and then just throw them. I don't even know what happened to them.
Not even a court trial. It's just guilty. Gavel. That was it, basically.
Yeah, I wonder what they did with him. They have like prison camps in this place.
Whoa.
Maybe they did. It's an empire. There could be.
I don't know.
Actually, no, that's more like a nation state thing.
Is it?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I didn't study history.
Maybe just exile them.
Yeah, exile is more of an
I
empire
think that's
thing.
actually what they did.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so Kado, prince of the Mahesti dynasty in the kingdom of Arast, is relieved that his sister, the Sultan, has just had a baby, thus providing an heir and making him further from the throne. Kado is has a nervous, sensitive disposition and really does not want the power and responsibility of ruling.
No, poor guy has such bad anxiety. He's having like anxiety panic attacks like every other day.
Yeah,
he needs a strong shoulder to lean on.
Yeah, it's never like outright named as anxiety, obviously, because this is kind of a medieval-y thing going on here. But it's 100% anxiety.
Yeah, the representation for anxiety in this is strong.
It's to
the point that someone with me with anxiety noticed it immediately and was just like, I was doing that like a head in my hands.
I know,
like half of this book.
I was like getting stressed with him. I was like, no, stop, please. This is a bad train of
go
thought.
sit down.
Yeah.
Take a breath.
Yeah.
Do whatever you need to do. Don't go drinking again. Stop that.
Yeah.
Do this over here. That's much better.
Yeah.
But no.
So the impression we get is that this is a very prosperous kingdom and that his sister, Zeliha, the Sultan, has recently set him to the task of investigating a break-in at the Shipbuilders Guild. This is a big deal because this is the only kingdom that has like secret knowledge of how to avoid the like seasonal mating sea serpents that fuck up everybody else's trade.
I love that it's a seasonal mating thing.
Yeah.
It's like otherwise everything is fine. It's just the mating season we have to watch out for.
So they're afraid people were trying to steal their secrets. Meanwhile, Zeliha has been occupied with finding out how a foreigner in the city got a hold of a bunch of counterfeit coin. This is delicate because the woman, name of Azuta Melakrinos, is from Oissos, which is where Zeliha's baby daddy is from. Personally, I imagined Oissos, like I said, this is kind of Turkish. I imagined Oissos as Greece.
Yeah. So Oissos is an ancient Greek word that basically means, and I mean, I think plot twist here, I was shit at ancient Greek, but it basically means like bendy twig or like a willow branch. I do think she's definitely drawing from Old Persian Greek animosity for this book. Also, maybe because I clocked that early on, I knew that was what was going to go down here early. Ancient Greeks hold grudges and pulled out all stops to destroy Persia. Like for hundreds of years of grudges, it was basically Alexander the Great's whole personality. But I won't be a classicist this entire episode. In fact, I'm done now. We won't talk about it anymore.
Well, when I was in college to get one of my modern European history credits, I took a class called History and Society of Modern Greece. And there's two things I remember from that class. One is that one of the last kings that they had in Greece fucking died from a monkey bite.
Oh, what? Yeah. As you do, sure.
Yeah, it was like he was walking on the beach with his dog, and out of nowhere, a fucking macaque comes over and attacks his dog. So he like jumps into the fray, trying to separate him out. And then meanwhile, another macaque comes at him from the side and bites him all over, and he gets sepsis and dies.
Oh, no.
Shit.
It was in like 1920.
Dude,
Jesus.
monkeys freak me the fuck out.
They really do. Yeah.
Second thing that I learned in that class is that Turkey and Greece be fucking beefing over Cyprus.
Yeah, they hate
nonstop.
each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes way back. Like Greece was a colonial territory because their own land sucked, so they need to find land elsewhere. So they had colonies all along, like present day Turkey. So they hated each other. There's like a long-standing bitchiness.
Yeah, and
fascinating.
Cyprus is an island that's like kind of equidistant from them, and it's literally to this day like half of it is considered Turkey and half of it's considered Greece. Like I think they still have two different currencies there.
Yeah, they really don't get along.
Oh.
Yeah,
They've hated each other forever.
yeah. So the word in this book for baby daddy is body father of the newborn princess. In this culture, children are by default, they belong to the mother. And the father only has legal rights if the mother chooses to give them to him, which I love to see it.
God, this was so refreshing. Like, fuck the patriarchy, right?
Yeah, fully agree. And also, I loved that body father was just like basically baby daddy. Every time I read it, I was like, baby daddy.
Yeah, yeah.
It was great. Amazing.
So Cyrano, the body father, is a bag of dicks. He seems power hungry and refuses to learn the culture of this kingdom and just straight up hates Kado.
This man sucked. I gave Zeliha such side eye for even liking being in his presence long enough to have a kid with him. Like, what was the attraction?
Yeah.
I have so many questions.
I took my notes as I was reading this. So like every chapter I would stop and then write my notes in for like from the beginning, he was a dumb idiot. Like he was just so unbelievably ignorant and like proud of it. Almost like a like MAGA Trumper.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Maybe that was it. Maybe he's like really hot, so she thought he was
Maybe.
giving him.
I pictured
energy.
him bald. Not that there's anything wrong with bald men, but
So there is one scene where they interact, Zeliha and Cyrano, and you can tell that he's different around her.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I kind of
yeah.
I feel like he pulls on this terrible personality for Kado personally.
yeah. When they're like under the
Yes.
pavilion or whatever,
Right.
and he was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
so
He's
sweet,
like, of course I will do
baby."
this. Everything is great.
Yeah.
I love you so much, girl. But
Yeah. And then like behind her back, he's like flicking off Kato.
Yeah. So like it's complicated too because we only see Kado's point of view with him. So like I automatically hate him, and I'm like, what's wrong with you, Zeliha? Be better. And
Yeah.
I'm like that. No, stop.
Well,
you know she's getting something different.
Yeah.
She's getting that dick.
As we'll see later, I do like the sort of contrast between Zeliha as being like really good at being sultan, but kind of having a disaster of a personal life. And this is basically the situation in which those two start to conflict with each other.
Yeah.
So obviously this makes Kadu nervous because he's just like that. Zeliha notices that he seems to be thinner and paler, and for fun suggests a hunt in the royal forest because I'm sure crossbows will make this situation better.
Yeah, as a person who rides horses, telling someone who looks emaciated and thin and maybe
get
like
on a
not
horse.
super like fit to get on a horse and go hunting on it, not a good thing. No.
So Zeliha and Kadu chat a bit about their lives. They're obviously very close as siblings. We find out later that their parents died when they were young, along with a lot of other nobles from court in some sort of dreadful boating accident.
Pleasure barge.
Yeah. You know, something like this actually happened in European history
Yes,
too.
I know.
I can't remember exactly when it was way back at like 1000. But it was like a couple of the like people in line to rule England died on a fucking boat drunkenly crossing the English Channel. Yeah, it was kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Figuring out who was going to be in charge after that. Kado touch tastes the counterfeit coin. The magic in this world, as I said, is relatively rare and mundane. And one of the things is that some people can touch metal and essentially get a memory attached to it, either of how it was created or something that it was used for. Like, how would you guys describe it?
It kind of felt like to me like the metal itself, various types of metal gave off a certain like energy to a time and place that they were before when they previously touched it.
Yeah.
Something like that. It was like there was like a specific energy that they could like kind of feel and like kind of get the vibe off of. It was very vibe based.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah. It's like the scent or this like smell. Kind of like amarantia. I can never say it right. That like love potion from Harry Potter where you like it has the smell of the people you love or something.
Oh, okay.
But this is like to me this is so nerdy, but in a lot of video games you will like touch a glowing object and it will like give you a memory. That's kind of what this was to me.
So then Zeliha teases him about going to some Kaihalar party, and he like absolutely freaks out about it. And she's like, Jesus, I'm just teasing. And he's like, sure.
Yeah, and oh, never mind.
Having a nervous wreck breakdown as he says it.
So the background for that is that Kaihalar, also called Kaya, are essentially servants who run everything, but with a lot more training and a lot more respect than servants get.
Also bodyguards. They're like everything.
Yeah,
they do
they're
it all.
everything to essentially the court and the government. They're in all aspects of government, basically. They usually train extensively in all sorts of disciplines, so they can choose, like art, culture, espionage, fighting, languages, politics, history, etc. Then they leave the service and enter into politics or diplomacy or some such like that. Tadek is one of Kadu's 2 personal kaya, like his 2 bodyguards that help him stay in his apartment and help him get dressed and food and whatever the fuck he needs.
While also wearing swords.
Yes. So Tadek is one of his personal kaya, and Kadu and Tadek be fucking.
Yeah.
Like, just a little. But then he confided in Tadek about Cyrano being shitty to him, and the kaya tend to be really deeply loyal to the royal family. So now he's worried that Tadek thinks that he wants to actually move against Cyrano and potentially end up at odds with his sister. And holy shit, he does not. He does not want to do that. So the hunt starts. Kadu is forced to ride next to Cyrano with a complement of Kaya and Cyrano's personal guards around them. As Kadu starts to chase a deer and gets ready to fire, something slams into his horse and knocks him to the ground. He hears Tadek yell that this is treachery and then the sound of fighting. Kadu stumbles up and yells at everyone to stop. 2 Kaya and 1 Oisos guard are killed in the fray. Tadek swears that it looked deliberate and that Kadu looked like he was dead.
So I need to pause and have a little horse girl moment.
Please.
Because I loved the way the horse was described. It was like the sandy dun color. He was like, she looks just like the sands. And I was like, yeah, let me just take a break and picture this in my head for a second. How beautiful that Arabian horse looks. Okay. All right. I'm good. I'm done now. You can continue.
I was a little lost. I mean, I think this part was supposed to be messy, but I don't even remember a horse being described. I just remember Gato was like, I'm on the floor. This person is dying over here. People are yelling. What's going on? I was like, I don't know either.
Over here, like, this horse is so pretty.
You're like me earlier with that dog. You were like, who cares what's going on? I just want to pat this animal right now.
Kadu goes to Zeliha's throne room afterwards and gets his ass handed to him. What you're meant to pick up on is that Zeliha, as Sultan, is furious over this diplomatic mess. She basically accuses him of plotting against Cyrano's. But she also seems kind of enraged on a personal level because even though Cyrano's isn't her husband and the baby doesn't belong to him, she still likes him and maybe will make him consort.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. We all make bad decisions romantically. I get it. And we'll try to be more understanding because like I said, I'm sure he's different for her. But also, I don't know. These people are bodyguards first and butlers second. Imagine a butler running around with a sword.
Yeah.
Like, their main function is to protect Kado, and they did that. So reacting to what they thought was a threat is normal. You should expect that. So the story felt like it was kind of trying to tie itself into knots to get to this, like, fall on Kado. And I'm like, this society takes pains to fold the Kailar into every facet of royal life and make these family-like bonds. So why wouldn't they react quickly to perceived threats? That's their whole job.
Yeah.
And they did their job. And the blame Kado for it makes Zeliha looks weak, in my opinion. So, but maybe what's that the author was going for? Like, is Zeliha being like enthralled by Cyrano's dick?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought was she probably wouldn't get this upset if it hadn't been that specific person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, I mostly agree with you here. Like, I get why the Kylar would be annoyed that 2 of their men died on, like, what was supposed to be an innocent hunting trip. And, like, I get that the prince and the queen's baby daddy, like, beefing is not a good look. But it makes them look like they're both trying to get, like, one step closer to the throne with this, like, mess. But why would they not be more upset with, like, the foreign baby daddy? Like, like he's the one trying to get closer to the throne, like, try to get his daughter, who's already close to the throne, you know, by killing Kato. Like, they should be protecting Kato first, but instead they're like,
sure,
how dare your bodyguards
try
to save you,
right?
And not this
even
this
later
baby
on,
daddy, like, weird.
Yeah. Later on, he was in like this. I'm closer to this infant than you are, Cyrano, as the father.
Yeah,
So why isn't Cato given preferential treatment over Cyrano to begin with?
Right. Like he basically is just a sperm donor. I don't like. We're doing a lot.
We are
of protecting of him.
Yes, we are.
Just for foreign relations.
And how would that go to her own people? Being like, we're going to protect this other dude over here. Who,
other than your prince.
Yeah, other than your own prince. Yeah. So it all to me, it was like, it felt like it was pulling up this, like, it's this big political scandal, but it was just like, is it though? It seems like this is a mistake you're making.
Yeah. Besides that, politically, my other big issue is, like, because of this, Kato's, like, very upset about everything that happens, and he's like, big sister, please don't make me go spend summer vacation at the hunting lodge by myself. Like, dude, you have terrible respect. Like, the sea air will help calm your nerves. Like, you should go.
Absolutely. He needs to go to Brighton.
I know. Go to that English seaside, please.
Who wants to be involved in court? That sounds awful.
Ugh, a lot of stress.
So she threatens to exile Kato, but he manages to convince her that it would make the dynasty look weak to send him away after, like, a big, what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Brouhaha.
Like Three Stooges, whoop, 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 sort of mess.
Where people died.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Yeah. She also fires Tadek from the Kailar for essentially overreacting and threatens to execute him since he was a core guard, thus he, like, knows too much about the royal family.
Just demote him.
I feel like if she'd done that, she would have definitely caused a breakdown and everything.
Yeah. Like, the Kylar would be more mad, I feel like, because of that.
The corruption would go, like, way higher.
Which also, like, the setup for these, like, servant / butler / like, well, political people feels ripe for corruption.
It does, yeah.
Well, I think, too, Tadek specifically, she fired because she knew they'd be fucking. And the thought that he was leaning... The fear is that these guards are going to lean too much into protecting Kadu at the expense of the dynasty.
Yeah.
And that's what Kadu's really afraid of happening.
Yeah.
So Kadu begs on his knees to spare Tadek, whom he feels responsible for. And they basically kind of decide, because they don't know what else to do with him, that Tadek will be his personal servant for now.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Well, they needed to keep him around for the story purposes.
I know exactly. That's exactly what it is. But, like, if you want to think politically, you would actually send him to that farm upstate.
Yeah, that's what, agreed.
So he needs a new personal guard. Zeliha recommends a really hyper-disciplined, tight-ass, newly promoted Evamir Hoshkadem. So chapter 2, we get Evamir's point of view. It goes back and forth in the story between the two. He is a very calm, disciplined, devout person. Here's a quote. Usmim is one of the primary gods in this world. Usmim had never sent a trial that was truly beyond Evamir's ability. Only some that required greater determination, preparation, and care. When Evamir learns he did well enough on his exams to be promoted to Corps Guard, he is pleased, then horrified to see that he is a personal kaya to the prince.
I was cracking up this whole chapter because basically the whole time Evamir is just slowly realizing, like, the prince is such a little bitch at like every turn, and his...
Well, he was just looking for it. It was real juicy. It was real bitch eating crackers kind of stuff.
I loved it. Drama.
He had met the prince briefly the day he was investigating the shipbuilder's break-in when it was hot as balls outside, and Evamir brought him a drink from a street vendor. Side note, the name of the drink was Shabat Sekanjabin.
No way I'm going to correct you on that.
Which I looked up, and it appears to be a Persian drink with water, sugar, mint, vinegar, and cucumber.
I could really use that right now.
Right. Yeah. Truly.
Kadu called him a godsend, and Evermere was like overcome with his glory and, let's be real, smitten.
Yeah, well, like, he's right, because that drink sounds divine. So,
But now Evermere kind of hates him a little for the death of the other two Kaya. He thinks he's irresponsible. So Evermere does everything a Kaya should, but he's very cold and reserved, and that makes Kadu even more anxious. Evermere prepares him for going out in mourning garb, and they leave. Evermere mentally starts repeating to himself that Kadu is, quote, careless, flighty, negligent, end quote. I enjoyed the way that Evermere is determined not to like Kadu at this part. Like, he sees a loaf of common table bread amongst the breakfast items, and he gets really angry about it, basically thinking, oh, little spoiled prince boy thinks he can eat normie bread. I bet he eats it with his boyfriend, Tadek.
same, the whole time I was just like giggling out loud at his contempt for everything that Kado does. Like, he was like this little coward that can't even stand up straight, and then Evermere straightens his shoulders and he's like, I'll show him how bitches are supposed to stand. Like, he was like, oh my god, it was so funny. Yeah, there's like a fucking bagel on the table, and he was like, ugh, you don't even deserve a bagel. Like,
you think you can eat bagels?
Yeah, you think you're good enough for a fucking bagel? No.
So Kadu is like, well, this guy clearly hates me, and then gets even more anxious about it.
Yep.
They go to talk to Lieutenant Armagon, who is investigating the break-in, and they say, no need, wrapped it up, and send a note to the Sultan. It's a totally embarrassing brush-off. Evermere notices Kadu is getting meeker and meeker throughout the day as people are like kind of shitty to him. And basically thinks, well, it's not my job to be his friend. I'll just be noble and respectable enough for the both of us.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse for someone who has anxiety than thinking
the people around you are mad at you.
Yeah, yes. and then like getting little hints that like maybe it's right. You're like, oh no, that person didn't laugh at my joke. Oh no, they're not looking at me. They're only looking at their. Oh my god, everyone hates me. And then you're like, oh, my fears are confirmed.
Yeah, so they get back to his chambers in the palace, and Evermere is like, you're shaking. Why are you shaking? He strips off his outer layer. Kadu does strips off his outer layer and asks Evermere to fetch Eozina and Tadek. Eozina is the head of the Kailar and is like an aunt to the royal sibling. She's been around their whole life.
I feel like she is an actual aunt.
Not.
I thought she was.
No.
Okay, never mind.
No, she's just always been. In the court guard.
Okay.
He and Eozina talk about the break-in and how it is weird that Armagon is shutting down the investigation already. And then Eozina grills him about his relationship with Tadek. It seems like Kadus likes him well enough, but doesn't love him and is kind of embarrassed that he let himself sleep with him. Tadek's like the village bicycle, to use an unsavory euphemism.
He is a super enthusiastic village bicycle.
Yeah,
he's
no
into
hate.
It.
Yeah.
Kadu takes a walk and goes to pray in a shrine. Cyranos is there. They all try to be cool about it. And in the middle of Kadu praying, there's positions, sort of like in Islam. And he's in the middle of his positions. And Cyranos starts talking, and Evermere is like pearl-clutchingly aghast that he would interrupt him. Cyranos prods him about the investigation, subtly accuses him of spying on his sister, and then talks shit about Irasti culture. Like, you're doing great, bro. The only thing that Kadu rises to is to defend the Kaihalar when Cyranos calls them just servants.
Yeah, Cyranos was so one note in terms of inability to grasp the cultural norms.
Yeah.
Especially where he's being concerned about baby daddies. Like, that's a whole conversation that I'm like, did Zaliha tell him? Did she casually just not tell him how this works? Because he seemed aggressively ignorant. But I'm like, yeah, he's from the patriarchy. I get it.
Yeah.
He would be aggressively ignorant because that's just what they do. But also, it's just, he genuinely seemed like he didn't know. But then again, it's all coming through Kade's point of view. So I'm like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, I listened to the audiobook for like the first half of this. And then even when I was cleaning, I like couldn't pay attention to the audiobook. So I had to stop. But anyways, during this part, the narrator made Cyranos sound like a little bigoted and like pompous. Like, yeah, I don't know what baby father is. Like, why would I even know what it is? Like, he was like, baby father, body father, law father. What's the difference? It's all wrong. You guys are idiots. Like, he sounds like when British people come to the US and then they're like personally offended that we don't do things like exactly the same.
Right.
Like, you drive on the right side of the road. How dare you? I know
like
you
most of
invented
the
cars
country.
and everything, but like they're in England, we do it this way. That was not a very good accent, but we do have people who listen in Britain too.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't care about what the British think.
Oh, I care like 10%.
No, if they can't take the heat, then they can get out. Like that time we kicked him out.
like,
or anti-monarchy in this room.
yeah, that's really it. Not anything else. Just
Specifically King George.
yeah, what about King Charles?
No, fuck that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no one likes him either.
Does
Sorry.
he still have cancer?
Probably.
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Then Cyrano asks, "Is it true your mother was an adulteress?" Which she's not. Kadu was just born while she was on a diplomatic mission, and she gave him a name from that kingdom, so it's a long-standing rumor. At this point, Kadu basically starts to disassociate, and Evermere has to be the one to tell Cyrano to mind himself, and then he hustles Kadu off.
That's actually really cool that he did say something to Cyrano's,
Yeah.
honestly, because like no one else would have said something.
Wasn't Cato born in like what is basically France?
Yeah, they call it
Gift.
like Vint something. They call the people from that place Vintish, and it's France. Like later you find out that his name Kado is a translation of the word
Gift.
Yeah, gift. Kadu's like, sorry he spoke to you like that. You see why I'm in trouble because people think I want to kill him? Between Cyrano's being a shit and Evermere being cold and mean, Kadu is fucking losing it at this point. So he starts to get really drunk while Evermere silently judges him for getting drunk so he drinks more. He watches Evermere fuss with the throw pillows and thinks, my sister did this to torture me.
I love Kato, but like I absolutely love what a little spoiled brat he is. Like I totally get Evermere's attitude to him, but underneath all of it, like poor guy is just like, does everyone hate me? Which I feel that in my soul. I'm also a brat, and I also have anxiety.
Tadic shows up and is flirty. He helps Evermere make up the bed and chats about how he has 5 years in the Corps Guard before his dishonorable discharge. So feel free to ask any questions. And Evermere says, yes, I expect after 5 years you would know your way around the bed sheets.
Oh my God.
Fucking snap, Evermere, you catty bitch.
Dude, I was giggling and kicking my feet at this little drama. Tadek, messiest bitch I've ever
Oh my
seen.
God, so messy.
And I couldn't like figure out if I liked him or if I hated him.
I think it really comes around in the end.
Yeah, no, it does. It does.
Yeah, it
but
took
like,
me about half the book to suddenly like I like Tadic now.
yeah. I was like,
It took some time.
So basically, Kato is getting super drunk and very deep into his self-loathing, thinking, oh my God, I'm so stupid. My sister hates me. The Kaya hate me. I got people killed. I'm so weak and cowardly. And now everyone knows I'm a slut.
True.
that was like my Friday night.
Kadu and Tadic talk about the hunting incident, and Tadic thanks him for saving his life. Kadu is like, please don't think you owe me anything. I just didn't want you to die. And then, well, they kind of have sex. Evermere and Melik sort out the details of their schedule. I don't know if I mentioned Melik is the other personal guard to Kadu. They sort out the details of their schedule. I'm sparing you the like 2 whole pages that was.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That was so much.
And meanwhile, Evermere silently rages about them having sex in the other room. When Tadic pokes out his head to ask for food, Evermere tells him he should at least try to be discreet. And Tadic's like, why? You already know. Because Evermere's jealous, okay?
I know. But dude, fuck Tadic here. Like, but also, I was gagged when he was like, we don't want his highness to go to bed with sticky sheets, do we? The fucking cheek of that guy.
Yeah.
Kadu wakes up hungover and is like, oh fuck, Tadic's still here. Tadic tries to kiss him and he turns away, citing morning breath. Oof. Kadu likes Tadic, but not like that, and really did not intend to lead him on. He just keeps making a bunch of stupid mistakes. He just wants to be distracted, and he knows now that he's literally all Tadic has.
Yeah.
Eozina stops by and is clearly frustrated with him. A quote she says is, you sure made a decision, eh? There was a decision to be made there, and you really just made the shit out of it.
It's a perfect quote to sum up this situation.
I know.
Every time that TEDx stuff happened, I was just like head in my hands, like, no, don't do this again.
Oh my God, I know.
Oh my God.
And this book is like not supposed to be like a comedy. Like, I mean, but I was literally laughing out loud during this whole like Eozina conversation. I was
kind
like,
of
this
is,
is
though.
hysterical.
I think she's good at dialogue.
Yeah, a
I
lot
do
of the
too.
dialogue
Sorry.
is comedic centric.
Right, yeah.
Even though what's happening around it is not a comedy at all.
Fully
Like
not.
it's like a cast of comedy characters in a drama.
Yeah, that's good. Mhm.
She also tells him not to lead Tadic on, and that it is super obvious to everyone they be fucking. She offers to hang around more to help out with the transition to everybody's new positions.
Yeah.
Over breakfast, they look over Armagon's notes from the break-in at the Shipbuilders Guild and decide that they are highly sus. I said sus last episode too, didn't
You did. You're really into that word.
I'm now
Okay.
saying sus now because of you. It's spreading. So
Okay.
FYI.
Highly sus. Melik comes in and they discuss changing guard rotations again. So now they split days at noon and midnight, so Evermir's with him overnight. Kadu tries to see if Evermir's okay with this, and Evermir's like so offended that he would even ask. Tadek asks what the hell he's supposed to do day to day, and they decide he'll function as his secretary for now.
I'm not gonna lie. This is where I was like texting you. I'm Tabitha. For the love of God, this book had better start picking up because they spent so long talking about schedules so far. I am losing my mind.
Yeah. I just figured that it was like she wrote it this way because she was trying to get us to feel like Kato and like become just so overwhelmed with the details that we were just like, yeah, please just do whatever the fuck you want. Just shut the fuck up. But I think it's more that there are just like so many unnecessary details. Do I love them all? Yeah, but like, do I actually care to read multiple paragraphs about how like people brush their teeth in this universe and like chew on this little twig and then keep it in their mouth while they're talking and then blah blah blah? No, I like just make that just one sentence, okay? I think
No,
I can.
see, I love that
No,
shit.
I know.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God.
this is why I like the like really long fan fiction is because they'll do this. And a lot of the times during this book, I was like, this kind of feels like a fan fiction.
We're gonna get there, yeah.
Yeah, we are. But I just want to go back to reading these like catty little boys. They're not
Yes.
little, but
No, more cattiness.
yeah, I loved it.
100% give
Yeah.
me the cattiness.
Uh-huh.
Iwazina asks Evermir to help read the numbers in the report, and Tadek gets overly flirty, implying Evermir's into Kado. Kado makes him apologize to Evermir, and Evermir does this like weird mental math about Kado being careless and negligent, but maybe not so much flighty, because he was, clearly respects the Kailar.
Yeah.
When they're alone, Kadu mentions how weird it is that Ceranos straight up called his mom a whore. Usually people are more circumspect. Evermir says he will write it up in a report and send it to Iwazina.
I felt so seen, but I feel seen by a lot of the things that Kato does. But when he was like, that was like fucked up, right? Like you thought that was weird too,
Yeah.
right? Like I didn't make that up in my head, right? Like I do that shit all the time.
Yeah. After lunch, Kadu gets dressed in his morning garb and goes out into the palace just to let people be shitty to him, I guess. He tries to attend court and finds his sister has forbidden him as part of his punishment.
Imagine?
Yeah,
Just like walking in
embarrassing.
and being like, sorry, no.
Get out.
You, as the prince of this realm, are not invited to this party. And he's like, slinks off. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I just so suck.
So, with rising panic and dread, he returns to his room and dismisses Tadek for the night before he can fuck him again.
God, thank God.
Then
Smartest
he
thing he's done.
dresses. Then he dresses in very plain clothing, covers his hair with a turban, and orders a carriage and tells Evermir that his shift is going to run long.
Dun, dun, dun.
Eventually, after riding for a while, he says he wants to walk, then ditches the carriage and all the Kaya but Evermir. He walks until he's near the docks and goes into a seedy public house and drinks and plays cards with a bunch of riffraff. Eventually, he gets into an argument about cheating, because he is cheating, and he gets punched. The punch is a great temporary physical release from his anxiety, but Evermir knocks the guy out, bodyguard and all.
Right.
Kadu stomps to the neighboring pub and tries to start a fight before Evermir stops him and refuses to return to the palace without Kadu. He can tell that Kadu is extremely upset and gets the brilliant idea that he can teach Kadu how to fight and learn some discipline. He's like, I'm so smart. Kado's like, oh, you can you? Okay. They go outside. Evermir talks to him like he's an idiot, all the while thinking, I'm so smart. This is exactly what the prince needs. Some physical discipline. Then Kadu fucking lays him out and is like, did you really think that I never had hand-to-hand training? Fuck off. Evermir says, you know what? That's fair.
God, I really love this chapter.
Me too.
Especially like Evermir thinks he's going to be the one to teach Kado like to punch correctly and like
Yeah.
the most baby's first punch way possible. Like when like a really obnoxious man walks up to you and he's
Yeah.
like, you shouldn't fold your thumb into
Right,
your
right,
fist
yeah.
because you'll break it. And
Yeah.
that's where it is. And he's just like, no.
Yeah. Then he gets
Yeah.
laid out. Dude, Evermir is so dumbfounded that his plan didn't work. Like, they're just both so stupid right now, and I love it.
They go back inside and Evermir keeps quiet but tries to figure out Kadu. Poor Evermir. He's like, I get that he's upset, but has he just tried not being upset? Which is hilarious because, yeah, I wish that was the way it worked.
One time my dad said that to me. He was like, what if you just, like, weren't sad anymore? And I was like, I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have a lot of problem with emotions in my family, which is why I got the really nice nickname when I was younger of Evil Twin. Because anytime I was not happy, I was just immediately the evil twin. I was a big bitch, but, you know, would have helped, like, therapy or medication.
You
or
were
like,
a teen, though.
Yeah, I was, like, 13 to 17.
That's normal.
Yeah.
My nickname was Krabby Tabby.
Aw. I also have Pokey Puppy because I'm always late.
Evamir spends the next 2 weeks using chess to understand Kado. He notes the circumstances around whether he plays good or bad. After Kado wins a game, he smiles at Evamir in such a way that Evamir has to excuse himself to his room and absolutely boil with confusion. That's the quote. The night after the funerals for the Kaya who died on the hunt, he drags Evamir back to the seedy pubs, but behaves himself a little better this time. He meets a lot of poor university students and gives them little lessons in many things because, you know, he had royal tutors.
Oh, my God.
When he runs out of students to lecture, he lectures Evamir, usually about economics. We get this whole thing about coinage and how it's created and how it's debased and
how
stuff
currency
like that.
works, basically.
Yeah.
The only thing you really need to know is that one of the things that makes this kingdom so stable and wealthy is the purity of their currency. Mm-hmm. Once again, Evamir doesn't really understand what's going on, but he just likes listening to Kado.
Yeah, he's like really talking about debasing coin currency in this little economics lecture to kind of tell people why it's important. And like, if you debase coin currency, the economy goes. And like, it's very baby's first economics lecture. Which in the back of my mind when this happened, I immediately started thinking like, what if Evamir reacted the same way that Kado reacted to him? And just like, bitch, I know how economics works. I live in an empire that has an amazing economy, okay? Like, but he would never, so.
No.
Yeah, and Evamir, like, doesn't give a shit about any of this information. He just wants to listen to little Kado talk. Mm-hmm. He's basically the embodiment of that one TikTok sound that's like, blah, 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 proper name, backstory stuff. Mm-hmm. You obviously don't have that on your FYP. Mm. It's from the Lego movie.
This is why it's not.
As they get ready to go back to the palace, Evamir asks why he considers himself a coward. Kado explains how his fear will just randomly leap on him like a rabid raccoon. He also tells the story about the first lesson he and his sister learned. Misusing our power hurts everyone else before it hurts us. They took the siblings to a poorer district with like orphans and lepers and stuff and gave them this message and traumatized Kado, who was a little too young for it.
Yeah, he was like 5. And my son is 4.5 and went mini golfing recently with his grandparents. So this is going to go somewhere, I promise. But like, so my dad tried to teach him how to like swing the club without like hurting himself or others. And of course these lessons weren't sticking. So my dad was getting frustrated. My mother is like, Mike, he's 4. And my dad says literally, he's 4.5.
Oh, okay.
So I can't imagine teaching a child that age about the misuse of power. But also I can sort of because I accidentally revealed that their son was going to eat the earth once. And my kids still bring this up to me months and months later, just in case science has proven that it will not actually happen. So I obviously regret telling them about it.
Do they just bring... That's how stuff sticks in your brain when you're that age. It's like, oh, like, this is imminent.
Yeah. It's like, it's going to happen tomorrow. And then they're like, are you sure the earth isn't going to be reborn? I'm like, I'm not sure that's how that works. I have no evidence to believe it will or will not, but I doubt it will happen. Also, it's going to happen billions of years from now. So don't worry about it. But they don't understand they're not going to be alive in a billion years, so it's really hard.
Yeah,
well, a billion as itself is a hard number to understand.
They can't begin to grasp it.
I mean, if you believe in a universe where the Big Bang expands and contracts and expands and contracts over and over, then yes, it will.
Yeah. Exactly. That's also what I told them. I'm like, well, there's this thing called
the Big Bang. There's a show.
And then
about
I was like, if you want to believe in multiverses, we can discuss that too. And they're like, oh my god. And my kids are 4 and 7.
So maybe too much too fast. I don't know. I think like not the sun lesson or the Big Bang Theory lesson, but this lesson about like controlling your power is very intense for anyone who hasn't hit puberty yet. Like people will die if you can't control your ambitions. Very heavy for the youngins. A good lesson, I think, for anyone who has, you know, unchecked power, but also maybe we can just teach children that our actions have consequences in a more age-appropriate way without being like, see this child? They will die if you get upset.
So I'm rewatching Rome on HBO.
Okay.
And we just got through when they killed Ptolemy the 13th. Ptolemy the 13th was like in his early teens. And he was a monster of a child. So it's like kind of thinking along the age of like empire and like you're going to be ruled by a child.
Yeah.
What is a proper age to teach anything?
Right. Yeah. Maybe just again, like,
I think
let's be
the
nice
answer
to
is just
everyone.
like, don't let them rule until they're like 20.
yeah, agreed.
So, by the way, Kadu is still convinced at this point that Evermere hates him. So he's not really trying to make excuses. He's just kind of explaining where his head's at.
Yeah.
So as they're walking back towards the palace, Kadu says, hey, let's go to the Shipbuilders Guild. No one will be there to bother us except the guards, and we can poke around. So they go, they get a torch from one of the guards and think that since the door was battered down during the break-in, maybe they used a broken ship's mast. Because again, this is where they build ships, and they need something fucking big to beat down a door. They find the scrap heap, start pawing through it, and Evermere is like, oh god, your nails.
His constant concern that Cadeau doesn't like look princely enough never ceases to make me laugh. Later on, he's like, I don't know, maybe we can just put like one hair jewel under your turban.
Yeah.
Just like for me. I just need to like know that inside. Or like, what if we put like really nice underwear on and then you put your like poor people clothes over on top of it?
Eventually, they find a log that is just the right size with a damaged end on it with paint on it from the door. Armagon never mentioned this in their investigation, and it makes them wonder if he's hiding something. Kadu and Evermere leave the evidence with the guards to be collected in the morning. It's very late. Kadu's kind of drunk, and they're walking back to the palace when they get attacked by hooligans, like people just trying to rob him.
Yeah.
As Kadu is getting robbed, he sees Evermere throw down two dudes before throwing off the two guys attacking Kadu. Evermere tells him to run, but that's like 4 dudes with knives now primed to attack Evermere. Kadu remembers that this is exactly the type of hand-to-hand fighting that he learned, i.e. he only will need to fight if his kayak can't, and he needs to buy them time to rescue him. So it's just brutal efficiency. So Kadu kind of disassociates again and kills 3 of the hooligans beautifully and gracefully.
Yeah.
Evermere is in love. I mean, he doesn't think that, but we know that's what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. Poor Evermere is like, what is this electricity coursing through me and seeing the prince move like this? Dude, you got a big fat crush. Side note, this scene it's the perfect example of the unnecessary details in this book. Like, did I need to know what every fighting position and stance was that Kadu took during this little scuffle? No. Give me like a few at the beginning so I can get the feeling that he's disassociating and then move on.
Yeah.
I don't need to like basically take a ballet class during this chapter.
No, I do.
It was very much like
First
an
position.
academic, first position, second position. Then I took
plie.
8th position, and then
Yeah.
I did this amazing like swoopy thing with 10th position, and then I went back to first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I don't even know what that's supposed to be. You just said position numbers.
Rhonda John, I don't even know ballerina words, but like kickball change. Like that's literally what was happening in this. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm into it. So Kadu is in shock. They hustle back to the carriage while Kadu cries and shivers. Evermere tries reciting Bedamir's 10 Pillars of War, which is like the book all Kaya have to read about like how to be Kaya. So he tries reciting it to calm him down, and shockingly it doesn't work.
Can you imagine if you were having like a panic attack and someone was like, Corinthians 1? Like,
You had to choose Corinthians.
well, it's the one I know best. It's at every wedding. It was in my like, it was everywhere.
Oh God.
They get to the palace and he sends for Eozina. The first thing that Kadu says is that it wasn't Evermere's fault and insists that he had to kill them, right? Meanwhile, both of the Kaya clean the blood off of him. Kadu has managed to hide these panic attacks that he's had in the past from everyone, but this is the first time he's had one in front of anyone except Tadek.
Yeah.
So he asks for Tadek. Evermere basically kicks open Tadek's door and wakes him up. Tadek comes into the room, and side note, this is another thing that is a problem reading male romances, is you basically have to use everyone's name.
I know. I was thinking that earlier when you had to
Yeah.
restart.
Yeah,
the
you can't
program
say
can use it.
he all the time because you don't know
Who
you're
is
talking
he
about.
referring
Yeah.
to? Yeah.
Anyway, so Tadek comes into the room and immediately cuddles the prince like a little puppy. He coos softly, and Evermere and Eozina watch in confusion and secondhand embarrassment that it seems to work. Eozina tactfully leaves, but Evermere openly stares like a creeper.
Dude, I was a little embarrassed reading it.
Okay, well.
He was like, "Oh, poor thing. Just take some deep breaths." And I was like,
"Good for you. Look how good you're doing."
Yeah. You take it so well. I was like, ew.
Eventually, Kadu calms down and is pretty horrified at himself. Tadak offers to stay the night, and Kadu is like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah. So I was listening to this whole scene while waiting in a pickup line for at my kids' school. It's a long pickup line. I'm in a car. There are other cars going by me. I'm experiencing so much secondhand embarrassment while I'm listening to this. Like, my hands are over my face, and my mouth was locked in this pained grimace, and people are just driving by me staring. And I'm just like, this is embarrassing for me. It's embarrassing for you that you're doing this poor character. Oh my god, I cannot handle this. Also, if Kado had sex with Tadak one more time, I don't know what I was going to do. I was going to be like, Tabitha, I can't do this anymore. What's going to happen?
I would have DNF'd. I'm just kidding. I know, Maura, same. I was like, this is too much. Like, this is I mean, like, in the moment it was probably perfect, but then, like, you know, post nut clarity basically. And then Evermere was just openly staring at them like, you know, a little kid, just like mouth open, head empty. It was kind of funny.
So Kadu passes out in bed, and Evermere stares a little more. Then he goes into another room to discuss the situation with Tadak, Eozina, and Melik. Tadak explains what the fit was, why it happens, and what to do about it. He tells Evermere to be gentle because he makes Kadu nervous, then expresses surprise that Evermere didn't pull rank and tell him to leave when he showed up. One of my favorite Evermere quotes is here. He felt a little twinge. He probably would have pulled rank if given the chance. A personal weakness. Now that he had identified it, he would not give in to it, no matter how he was provoked. I think that just shows how his mind works.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I did a bad thing. I will not do that thing.
Yeah.
It's so different from Kado, who just spirals.
Yeah.
Evermere asks him what happened the day of the hunt. Tadak says it was his fault. He was there when Cyrano threatened Kadu, and he ranted about it to two other Kaihalar who were super loyal to Kado. Those were the two that were also killed during the hunt. Evermere thinks about what he would have done in that situation and thaws just a little bit towards Kadu and Tadak. He thinks on how hot Kadu was when he fought the hooligans. Again, he doesn't use those words, but like...
It's there.
What he thinks is, and this is another quote, like his heart or whatever part of him it was that yearned for somebody worthy to serve, had recognized the person he was meant to follow, the person he was meant to die for. There he was. Hot.
Yeah.
Kado wakes up the next day feeling hungover and embarrassed. He also thinks, why is Evermere being so nice and attentive to me all of a sudden? The phrase he uses for Evermere's behavior is, quote, a wild rampage of restless fidgeting, end quote.
Which means he's probably just like tapping his foot.
Evermere tries to apologize for, quote-unquote, failing Kadu in his duties the night before, and it starts to make Kadu spiral to remember that he hurt people. Evermere then apologizes for basically being a shitty Kaihalar, and Kadu tells him, I can tell that you don't like me on a personal level, and that's fine because you're human and you're allowed to have feelings. That's essentially what he tells him. And Evermere's like, ugh, he's so good. They talk a little more about Zeliha and the shipbuilder conspiracy, and Evermere finds himself wanting to be chatty with Kadu, or at least his version of chatty.
Oh my god, I love this trope. Like the one quiet one who never talks find himself opening up to his love interest, but like he doesn't know that he's in love yet. He just keeps talking more, and he's like, oh, I'm not usually like this with other people. I wonder what it is about you that makes me like this. Give me more.
Eozina comes back and says that the guards have denied that they left them any evidence to collect, and she goes with them to interrogate Armagon. They try to get him to explain how two people in the dark, one of them drunk, managed to find the battering ram used, and that they did not, nor did they report searching for it. Yada yada. Eozina arrests Armagon for cover-up, I suppose.
So yeah, as an empire, I guess they can basically arrest anyone for any reason. Like, I've been reading a lot about ancient Rome lately, and it's just like, we're going to arrest you and pretend like you were committing incest with your sister, even though you weren't, and we're just going to say that you were, and we're going to arrest you now and kill you. But it does smack of government overreach.
Maybe it's like withholding...
The example you gave.
I know. I've been reading a lot about that. Sorry.
Go ahead, Tabitha. I'm sorry.
Maybe it's like withholding evidence is what he did, since he is a member of the... I keep saying he. It's a they. There's a third gender in this book called an Orsalar that uses chem pronouns.
It was a little hard for me Not at first, but like to remember that was they and them. Because in the audiobook, I was like, who is this third character that keeps showing up here?
The audiobook was rough in certain aspects.
Yeah, because Cheer.
I like the audiobook because they pronounced words that I couldn't.
That's very true.
That was beautiful, but they didn't explain what Che and Cheer, right?
Chem.
Yeah. Damn. Okay.
I guess it could be considered, what did I say? Withholding evidence, since they are a member of the Kai Halar, and yeah, I don't know. Seems iffy.
As we said, the plot is thin.
The plot's not the point here.
Yeah.
The plot is a barely there vehicle. So while Eozina rips their office apart, Kadu and Evermere go to report the developments to Zeliha. Kadu has not seen his sister in weeks after their fight, so he is nervous. He's even more so when he enters her personal garden and finds Cyrano with her and her daughter. Kadu asks to speak to her alone, so Cyrano politely takes a little walk. Weird, he notes that Cyrano is being polite. He does get to hold the baby, though.
Yeah.
He lets her know what's happening, and then Evermere takes the baby to play with. It's very cute for people who like babies.
Well,
It's so cute.
it's so cute. The man with a baby was beyond adorable.
And he was like cooing at
He
her.
was.
I was like, oh.
He was doing baby talk, and it was just like,
Well, his version of baby talk.
Yeah.
well, yeah, which is very
Yeah.
like gruff and like, yes,
Again,
of course you can do whatever you want because you're a child.
Probably like reading their version of the Bible.
Yeah. So Kadu feels awkward when Cyrano comes back and is about to leave, but then he sees Eozina enter the garden at a jog and is like, uh-oh. She hands some coins to Kadu, who immediately knows that they are counterfeit. Eozina yells at all of the Kaya to back off from the royal family.
Yeah. And he can tell that they're counterfeit because he can like taste them. Remember?
Yeah, he can do the touch tasting. So at this point, we know that there is a counterfeiting and theft conspiracy and that there are unknown Kai Halar involved, because they would have to be for the things that happened. This is a huge deal because, one, this kingdom is stable and wealthy mainly because of its well-maintained economy and currency. And two, the way the civil service and the military function here is very interwoven and highly involved in all aspects of the Sultanate. Personally, I really like this world building, that you have a hereditary monarchy, but you also have such a large, well-trained and disciplined civil force that it creates a balance against the absolute power.
Yeah.
But as we see here, corruption within the civil force could mean that the ruling family could either be weakened or outright deposed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it is interesting. But I'm not sure if this book really addressed is why was there this level of corruption in the civil force, and then like there are always problems with empire, etc. This book was not really willing to address problems.
It was because
of
they
empire.
let those damn Greeks in.
Yeah, but at the same time, she was just like, there are these democracies and they're super fallible and not as good as us. We are the most perfect empire monarchy to ever
that's
exist. And I was like, wait, is Oisos the flawed democracy? Because technically speaking, they were a democracy for a while.
Oh.
Well, yeah, but also like,
And they were a very flawed one. Don't get me wrong.
yeah, part of what's going on here is that Oisos is like super, super deep in debt.
Yeah. Right. Two.
Oh,
Two.
okay. Yes.
To a rust.
Yeah. Two.
Got
yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I think the way you're supposed to feel about this situation is it's like finding out that the person who stole your identity is someone living in your house with you. Like, why did they do it? Are they willing to kill you over it?
Yeah.
Like, that's the fear that's currently present with them. Eozina gets the 8 Kailar that are present into 2 lines, including Evermere, and tells them to kill any other Kaya who moves. She says she found a chest of counterfeit coins in Armagon's office and then caught 2 other Kaya destroying some documents. They talk about finding a Satyota, which is a person who can read truth, another kind of mundane magic that exists in this world. But they're kind of rare, and also they can lie about what they read in a person.
Yeah.
So Kato decides that he is going to test Evermere's loyalty himself. Which I feel like this is such a move I identify with someone with anxiety. The what if spiral in your brain will drive you crazy, but then in an actual emergency you can stay calm.
Yeah.
When this happens, I feel like my brain is thinking, finally, what we've been preparing for.
I completely agree.
Yeah, same.
The way Kadu thinks of it is that he is the spare, so he can risk death.
Yeah.
So Kadu moves to Evermere and the other Kaya back off. He tells Evermere to put his sword to Kadu's throat. Evermere refuses, kneeling before Kadu in supplication. The two of them have a moment. They stare into each other's eyes, and he has Evermere swear his loyalty. He asks if Evermere would cut off his hand if he demanded it. They do this whole show of deciding which hand, and Evermere tying a tourniquet. And right before he does it, Kadu tells him to stop, and that he trusts at this point that he is loyal.
They should just kiss right now.
Yeah,
in
that's
front of everyone.
Eozina is obviously apoplectic over this stunt, and the siblings are like, well, at least you know now that the two of you are loyal.
Right.
Eozina has a little bit of a meltdown over how impossible this task is. The royal family plus Evermere barricade themselves in Zeliha's rooms, and Kadu tells Eozina to use Tadek to kind of like grill everybody and get more people, because Tadek might be disgraced, but he did almost die for Kadu.
Yeah.
So at least they can trust him there.
And also he was like, I know everyone's tea, so I can manipulate
Exactly,
them into
yeah.
saying if they're loyal.
Very true.
Yeah.
I did kind of wonder, like, is the barricade necessary?
No.
Like, a counterfeit plot and a robbery are not life-threatening,
I mean-
usually. So
I mean, someone does break in and try to kill him later.
that's
Yeah,
later.
I know, I
That's
know.
later on, and I was also very surprised when that happened.
Yeah.
But, like, I get that it's going to be hard sorting through however large the civil service is for corruption, but a barricade? Like, the whole, like, everyone stop what you're doing and kill each other if you move. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is just some fake coins, lady. Chill out.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, this is kind of a crazy reaction to counterfeiting. I'm sorry.
Honestly, same. I was like, okay, these people are lying to you, but like, does that immediately mean that they're gonna murder you? But I don't know. Maybe if you're a royal, you just assume that every small crime is just a part of a larger plot
Like,
to
I think
kill you
there's-
and take the crown.
Sure, paranoia
Yeah,
definitely
like, yeah.
goes up with royals, but
But I was like,
and
whoa, guys,
I also
chill.
think that the issue is they don't know how deep this thing goes. Like,
Yeah,
is this
yeah,
like
I know.
a giant, huge conspiracy? And
Yeah.
also, the Kaya have such freedom in the palace
Yes.
that I think they're afraid, like, what if it is a member of the core guard who's allowed access to us?
Yeah.
And they're willing to kill us to keep the secret of whoever's doing this.
Yeah,
That's at
like
least how I
little
interpreted it.
explanation was kind of missed in that.
although
moment.
it's kind of like it's lost already because they already have 3 people in custody who are part of it. So all you have to do is just torture those 3, and then before you know it,
Yeah,
like you
just
have
torture 'em.
everything.
Yeah,
this is an
torture
empire.
'em.
This is empire, Tabitha. I'm expecting torture to happen.
So
Why not?
Eozina goes to Tadek, who is like, people tell me everything. Do you want to see my lists? And from this, she pulls about a half dozen Kaya that she thinks are loyal.
At this point in the story, I didn't know how I felt about Tadek. Like, the next scene kind of like sums up all my feelings about him because he's just so messy.
He went through a deep journey with me.
Yeah, he
personally.
did. I know.
Yeah.
I know. I told you I was taking notes as I was reading, so like these are my live thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Around here too, he was really messy still. And I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know how I feel about this dude. Plus, I was still worried that he was going to have sex with Kato again. And I was
Yeah.
just like, I was on the edge of my seat just waiting to get mad. So I was like, how dare you? Don't touch him.
I was like gaslighting myself through this whole book that like someone was actually going to be like a double crosser. I was like,
No, it's
it's
not.
Tadek.
It's not that
No, I
complicated,
know,
this
but like the
book.
whole time I was like waiting for it to be like a little more complicated because it is so just like, wow, it is just that, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, is Tadek gonna be the one?
Yeah.
Is it Malik? Is that why he was like,
Sure.
maybe we should switch our schedules, guys? I don't know. I'm just
Well, it
like
is-
not a morning person.
It's kind of setting it up for that, though. There's
Yeah.
so many people corrupt, and
Yeah.
in with Oisos in this plot, you would expect one of them closer
Right.
to the people in charge
Yeah.
to be also
Yeah.
thinking about
But that
it.
would distract from the romance.
True.
Yeah. So Cyrano has gotten impatient and pissy being locked inside, so Kadu is hiding outside on a porch. Kadu, Tadek, and Evermere head to the household shrine. They're fiddling with the scales on the altar when Cyrano follows them in. He tries to make peace, but does a really shitty job, and they take offense.
As they should.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Like, he cannot seem to understand that Aina, who's his daughter non-legally, is theirs in a legal and cultural way that will never include Cyrano's in his family. It's just the way it works in the place that he's currently living. Eventually, Tadek starts making lewd comments, and Kadu and Evermere are so horrified that they hurry out. They lecture Tadek, who says that Cyrnos is a bully and that Evermere really isn't equipped for that sort of antagonism, so Tadek is going to keep being a bitch.
See what I mean? Like, just messy.
Kadu needs to find out if the counterfeits were made by the same person. So, like the ones they found in Armagon's office
Yeah.
versus the ones that they found with Azuta Melakrinos. a touch taster can help, but he wants to talk to shifty people at the pubs again. Evamir is like, hell no, you almost died. And then the two of them have a sort of clearing of the air where Evamir admits he was wrong about Kadu at first. And in turn, Kadu tells Evamir that he trusts him implicitly. Evamir has the stirring of a sort of reverence that we, the audience, know is love, but he doesn't yet.
Yeah.
Iozina says it is a good plan, but like hell is Kato participating. She reminds Kato of how much she cares about him and begs him to just stay in the royal quarters with Evamir so she doesn't have to worry. Evamir gets him a blanket and tea, and Kato thinks about how disciplined and formal he is, so offering comforts like this feel genuine. Evamir asks about what he can do to help with his fits, and Kato is pretty vague about it. Then Evamir asks him if he wants to bathe, and Kato says yes. The two of them head to an empty bathhouse. Evamir is getting a little twitchy because they're wearing nothing but thin cotton bathrobes, which I ask, why the bathrobes at all? It's crazy to me that they aren't naked in this scene.
Yeah, seriously, strip. I mean, the ancients did all of this naked, and they were totally gossiping about penises the entire time.
Yeah,
so that's what I was expecting.
If we're talking about Turkish baths here, just have them be naked.
Yeah.
Naked all the way.
Is it bad if I say I was just like straight up disappointed?
No, it's weird. It's weird that they're in bathrobes.
Absolutely, they should have been naked.
And everyone in this story seems like a little too comfortable with discussing like Kato's sex life for this man to be wearing a bathrobe while he's bathing. You know what I mean? Like even his sister was like, heard you got dick down last night. Like Jesus Christ.
Honestly,
one time my brother drunkenly told me he needed to get laid and I was like, I can't talk to you for a month. Like please, we don't discuss those things.
No more.
Honestly, I feel like this tracks for historical royalty, though. Everyone was like way too involved in their sex
because they
lives.
like watch them like consummate the marriage and shit.
Yeah, everybody knew who's everybody's mistresses were and all that.
Yeah. Still the bathrobe?
The bathrobes was stupid. They should have been nude.
Especially when he was bathing, he's just like, I'm gonna just like strip to the waist. I'm like, God damn.
Yeah, so then do you like pull it up like a skirt to like wash your legs?
Like, now your bathrobe is wet. Is that better? Of course it's not better. Take it off.
I will say I skipped the detail where it was a cotton robe and like my grandma made me this. She made us all robes like 10 years ago. And they are like the most plush, like kind of like fur animal, like stuffed animal texture ever. And that's exactly what I was picturing. And I was like, ugh. Like I was having like sensory issues and it wasn't even like on my body or like anything. I was just picturing it and I was like, gross, I need to go shower. Yeah. Naked.
Yeah. We definitely should have seen that dick.
Yeah, we should have. There's actually a lack of talking about dicks in here.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
So anyway, another Kaya pokes their head in briefly to ask if he should wash the prince's hair, and Evamir snarls at him. Kadu takes himself partially out of his robe. Again, partially.
Yeah.
So that Evamir can wash his long hair. They have a conversation about fealty, that if Evamir is loyal to him because he is royalty, what does he need to do in his position to deserve that loyalty? Evamir struggles to articulate himself like all the time forever, but basically gets across that for him it is a sense of belonging. Kadu offers to wash his hair and Evamir lets him. It's very erotic. I feel like this says a lot about me, that of everything we've read, I find this whole thing to be super hot. You know, the like washing each other's hair while wearing bathrobes and soaking wet. You can take you're getting fingered at the dinner table. I'll take the partially dressed hair washing in a steam room and having a crisis about it, because it's the yearning for me.
I read this and I was like, oh my God, who is getting fingered here at dinner tables? And who likes that?
Yeah.
It was that like first book we read.
I know, but the implication that either of us are into that.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You liked that book more than I did.
I did like that book, but I wasn't like, yeah, next time I'm out to dinner.
Totally 100% gonna do that.
But this was great. I loved it. Like, give me 200 more of these scenes where Kato is just like doing something nice and Evamir's like, what is he doing to me? I love yearning.
I just like the description of his hair being wet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just really was like, I mean, I was into that.
So a quote from this scene: perhaps there had been something to his mother's warnings after all. The mountain spirits were said to be creatures of surpassing loveliness, all bright eyes and dark hair, who lured men to their deaths in the spring, or, as Evamir's mother had warned, snatched their hearts and replaced them with burning embers. He wondered if this was what that felt like.
Dude, I highlighted the same fucking quote. It was so good.
Beguiled by Keto, Evamir agrees to talk to Iozina with him. Melek is a super sensitive touch taster and can tell that the coins were all made around the same time. The gold was from the same source and the copper was from somewhere far off. Oisos, he suspects.
Ominous Law and Order. Dun-dun.
Yeah. Kadu takes a crack at begging Eozina to investigate again, while Zeliha wanders in, hears his reasoning, and says he can do it if he takes 2 loyal Kaya. Eozina is scandalized. Around a month passes. In that time, Kadu goes out in disguise and doesn't really learn anything. A bunch of complicated money stuff happens with the counterfeits, and they keep bringing coins home from Melik to test. One night, Kadu is getting ready to go out, and Tadek is being snappy. Kadu asks what's up, and they hash out their relationship. Basically, Tadek feels like Kadu must be upset with him because he doesn't want to sleep with him anymore. For Tadek, sex is a fun thing to do with very little hang-up. Kadu is like, do you think sex is the only thing that you have to offer me? And is that why you think I don't like you now? Because you're still my loyal friend. And Tadek is like, wow, read me to filth there. But they work it out and end in a good place. It does seem like there is some jealousy of Evamir, though.
So this is when I started to like Tadek. Like, once he was kind of out of the way as a romantic obstacle, I was like, okay, he's cute. I can grow to accept him.
Kadu and Evamir go to an incense house while Melik guards the outside. They talk about Kadu's condition and about the different stuff that could potentially help him, like alcohol, laudanum, etc. And he says it makes him feel worse in the long run. My boy, you would have loved Zoloft. They both agree, though, that something at this new incense place is, again, to sound like a millennial, hella sus.
Yeah, is this supposed to be like hookah?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's the same kind
The
of
vibe, yeah. Okay. But seriously, that boy needs like an anti-anxiety and SSRI or something.
Yeah, it would really improve his life.
Yep.
They go out back to check things out, and the alley gives Kadu a mini PTSD attack from, what happened before.
Previous, yeah.
So they push a little further back into the shadows so he can calm down. A moment later, a couple of people come out of the incense lounge and start talking about bootleg coinage. Kadu and Evamir hold still listening, but they make a small scuffling sound, which draws attention. Immediately, Kadu is like, we got to make out. Evamir complies. They kiss until the bootlegger finds them and is like, oops, have fun. Then when they are alone, Kadu apologizes over and over, and Evamir says it's not a problem.
I don't care if making out to somehow avoid detection thing is like an overdone trope, which I've been told before, and I deeply do not respect those people. I will consistently fall for it every time. That's how it works. Like, look at the romance plot. Suddenly sprout wings and fly after this. Like, if Feyre and Rhys had kissed under the nightmare court thing or whatever, that would have been amazing. Kiss under duress, damn it. And then, like, think about it for a while and be weird, agonize, confront your desires. That's what all of this does, and I am down for it.
Yeah.
Didn't they kiss under the mountain?
They did not.
No, they just like she sat on his lap. And...
sorry, under the mountain they do.
Yeah,
briefly.
But not.
But
when
I was
they,
talking in the nightmare court thing.
And
I wanted them to kiss then.
I did too. When they were like doing their weird like touching on the throne.
Yeah, that wasn't enough for me. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is stupid.
They should have made out. Yeah,
yeah. I don't read romance for realism.
No, me neither. Me neither. Which is why I usually complain when people are making out in front of their family because like who does that?
Yeah.
But I just want to know why this doesn't happen to me more in real life. Like,
same. I have also thought that. Like, why isn't this happening to me right now is the question.
Well, you're married.
My husband can do that too.
That's true. Go find a weird alley. We'll walk by.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. But every
part of my weird sexual fantasies. That's fine.
Actually, I really don't.
Now, I was gonna say, if you remember what I told you during the Cambric Creek episode, if one of you is getting fingered in front of me, I'm losing it.
That's never happened. Don't worry about it.
What about just a couple smooches?
I'll just give you the side eye.
But no, this trope where you're like kissing to avoid detection, definitely my fave S tier trope for me. I love it every time. It doesn't matter how flimsy the excuse is. I'm like, do it.
Yeah.
Kiss right now.
Do it immediately.
So Evamir tells himself he's not going to think about it, and then he can't stop thinking about how great it was.
Of course. Like, think about it a little bit more. It was amazing.
Also, the second you're like, I won't think about that ever again, immediately is all you think about.
So what he does is he has to invoke the thought of Tadek's licentiousness to make himself stop, to be like, Tadek's the one who wouldn't stop thinking about it. I can do better than that.
It's like the equivalent of thinking about baseball.
So they get back to the palace where everyone makes fun of Kadu's little turban. And his sister tells him someone forged a bunch of documents saying that Kadu was trying to usurp her throne. She knows it's not real, obviously, but oddly, Cyrano is acting mad on behalf of Kadu. Kadu is feeling overwhelmed and he goes to his rooms. Eozina shows up to get a report of the night and starts digging deep when they get all shifty about what happened. Eventually, Kadu explains the fake making out, and Evamir is like, it was a good idea. And when she says to Kadu, never do that again, Evamir says, he can't promise that.
Why would he? No one should.
But the thing is so funny because Evamir's like, well, it's a good excuse.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even matter that I liked it. Like, it could get us out of other trouble. Like, let's be logical about this, please.
Yeah. So Evamir walks Eozina out, and she's like, you good? Not feeling sexually harassed? Then tells him, well, he is not forbidden to have a relationship with the prince, to really think about it carefully first. Evamir is like, I would never, then immediately goes back to fantasizing about Kadu.
Yes, you should.
So Kadu is invited to breakfast with Zeliha, and Tadak dresses him while talking a bit about what he would like to do with himself. Zeliha shows him a portrait of a vintage prince, which, as we said before, is like France.
Yeah.
And talks him up. Because Kadu is an idiot, he thinks, oh, she wants to make sure I get along with her next body father or consort. That's nice. Cyrnos is polite but distant, and everyone loves the baby. When they part, he admits he's still upset about being banned from court and the near exile by Zeliha.
Yeah. I think when I was reading that you finally said French in there, talking about the vintage prince, I was like, ooh, thank God. I was really like gaslighting myself into thinking that it was a different country. But then the book literally used like Le Duc and then like a bunch of French names. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Phew.
Yeah. On their way back, Tadak and Kadu pause to ogle Evamir doing sword drills half undressed in the rain.
As you do.
Yeah.
That's absolutely normal.
Yeah.
Anyone would do that. Yes. For hours.
The next day, there is a diplomatic dinner for the Oisic ambassador that Kadu has to go to. Evamir helps Tadak get Kadu ready, but he has to leave because he thinks they are an item and their banter is flirty. At the dinner, Cyrnos introduces Kadu to his sister Sylvia. During a musical performance afterwards, Evamir excuses himself to the hallway to fix a fucked up shoe sock situation he has and overhears Cyrano and Sylvia arguing. It's very suspicious as they're talking about Kadu and saying stuff like, why is he still here? Evamir tries to tell Kadu about this later, and Kadu is like, oh God, not again. Please don't tell me anything about these people. So in the middle of the night, Kadu wakes up feeling anxious, and he lays there thinking, is this my fucked up brain, or is there an actual problem right now?
I love that this man's brain is basically my brain too. Like I had a mini freak out while I was reading because I thought I had left a candle like burning for too long, and somehow it had like magically tipped over, even though it was like somewhere where my cat couldn't get, and there was like no wind or like random ghosts, and that there was like somehow a fire blazing in my kitchen without me knowing, and it had only been there for like 15 minutes. Like it was like barely burning at all, and I was like and then it was totally fine.
Turns out it's a real problem. He hears something and sees movement, so he screams for the Kailar. There's a flurry of action. Someone tries to smother him. He stabs the guy in the neck. Someone else tries to essentially chloroform him, and Kadu stabs him before throwing a lantern into the fireplace to kind of brighten the room. Kaya have killed several intruders. Tadak got stabbed in the side and Melik in the arm. Eozina bursts in, and the group of Kaya bundle up Kadu, stop by the Sultan's quarters to get them, then hustle them the fuck out of the palace because obviously at this point it's compromised.
Yeah.
Kadu is in and out of consciousness from the drug that they tried to put on his face. So they sneak out through the tunnels into the city, and they go to Evamir's mother's house because it was like the first place they could think of. Then he makes Evamir get in bed with him and passes out. Evamir wakes up to Kadu clinging to his arm and Tadak slipping in to give him tea. It is licorice root tea, which Evamir says is his favorite. He would like licorice tea.
Ugh, gross.
But what kind of tea is your favorite? Mine is Bui or Lapsang Soshong.
I wish I knew what either of those teas were. So
I feel like she's just pulling rank right now.
yeah.
They're both.
This is just an excuse to talk shit about our tea flavors.
They're both smoked. I like smoked teas.
I'm such a pleb when it comes to tea. Like, is it warm? Is it tea tasting? Chances are I will drink it and not even have thoughts about it. But I do really like my the black tea that my mother-in-law serves during breakfast. You like serve it in these like really narrow glass mugs, and you spoon some sugar in there, and then you drink it with like olives and lebna and manikish, and it's great. Like all together, it's just an amazing experience.
That sounds good, but I hate olives. I tried to eat an olive the other day, and I'm like, oh, maybe I like them now as an adult. No.
I like olives. I don't know if I could eat them for breakfast, though. I'd have to try.
It's olives all the time there. It's so amazing.
I like green tea or Earl Grey. I don't like fruity teas or sweet teas. I don't like them at all. Unless it's like a boba, but that doesn't count. That's like basically coffee. I only do like a teeny bit of sugar. I want it like super earthy. I want to basically be drinking a vegetable. But mint tea with like tons of sugar is the exception. Again, like maybe chai, but do you know that almost every language calls tea either like a variation of tea or chai? Like it's either like te or tea or
it depends
cha.
on what part of China they're pulling it from.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
That is neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some people try to say like you shouldn't say chai tea because it means literally the same thing, and I'm just like.
But we're
like,
speaking
look,
English.
Yeah. This is like when people complain about pronunciation, and it's like, look, as an American, I am not going to say karate instead of karate. I'm sorry. I know how it's really pronounced, but I'm speaking English here.
Yeah.
Just like non-bread. Like, yes, I know it's bread.
I think it's also garbanzo beans in French, I think, is pois chiche or something like that. I can't remember. It's been so long since I've talked about garbanzo beans in French. But it's the same thing. It's peas
Yeah.
in two languages.
We get a little more insight into Tadic, who sort of clarifies that they aren't together, and he knows how Evermere feels. Evermere denies it, of course. They all eat breakfast, and watching Evermere interact with his mother, they realize why he is like that. His mother's also sort of, is stolid the right word?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you kind of like read Evermere as like a little autistic?
Not really.
Okay.
Maybe
During
just,
the
like,
shoe
a
in the
little.
sock scene, I was like, that also annoys me, but I don't know if I would like remove myself from a party to fix it.
I think it was just the author trying to find a way to get the character out there to actually.
I know. And I hate that I'm like doing the thing that I hate what people do, which is like just throw autism at every character that is logical.
No, he just read as very stoic to me.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
They get a letter from Eozina saying that none of their attackers could be identified, and that there was another attack near the... At this point, I couldn't remember what you call it. A brig? A dungeon? Probably a dungeon, right?
I don't know.
And that Izuta Melakrinos...
I genuinely didn't remember who that was at this point.
She's the lady from the beginning.
Yes. Now that we are talking here, I'm like, oh yes, now I know.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, who?
Honestly, me too. I was like, I'll remember her later.
So Izuta Melakrinos was the only person released from the dungeon. Katu decides to tell Zeliha about the conversation he overheard between Sylvia and Cyranos, who just sort of tagged along when they fled the palace because he was with the Sultan.
Yeah.
Because he thinks she and the counterfeiters are connected, meaning Sylvia, and wants to close the harbors. He wants to close the harbors so that they can't escape.
Yeah.
Zeliha reacts badly, swearing that Cyranos isn't involved and basically telling him his plan was stupid. Back in Evermere's room, Kadu asks what the point of him is. Like, why is he even here? Like, what's he even supposed to do? That he wants to help and he can't do anything. Evermere just wants to touch him all over.
No. Two things. One, Evermere's pining in the scene was like chef's kiss. Two, I'm like 10% on Zeliha's side because like she's right. Shutting down all the harbors like on a suspicion is pretty stupid. But like even if your baby daddy isn't involved here, like his sister still could be.
She has a real blind spot when it comes to Cyranos.
Yeah.
I still am like a little like, I'm going to judge you
Do you
a bit.
think he like eats her out a lot or something?
He
like,
better be.
Yeah, he better.
Can you imagine if she was like, to his defense always, and he was terrible in the sack?
So here's the
That's
thing.
a lot of women, though, unfortunately.
I know.
Yeah, I highly doubt that he was going down on her. Like, just
Yeah, 'cause
just
he's
generally
Greek.
speaking.
Yeah.
Tabitha. no, because like those cultures, generally speaking, in ancient times, thought anything doing that was gross. Like you did not put your mouth there. So like people did it, obviously, but it was
Okay.
considered a huge like faux pas. Like you're not like
Yeah,
gonna talk
fine.
about that because that part is gross and you don't put your mouth there, especially women.
Did they give blowjobs back then too, or no?
That was falling under the same thing.
Okay,
We don't put our mouth
oral
on genitals.
ever. Okay.
Yeah, so oral was definitely like a ew. I mean, it happened, obviously. But still, it was just like, this is a thing that we pretend we don't do.
Right.
Can you imagine how gross and cheesy their dicks had to be back then?
I don't even want to think about how terrible it was.
Ew, and bathing in a fucking robe.
They didn't even take their robes off to properly bathe themselves.
Yeah.
God only knows what's happening down there.
Yeah.
Yikes.
We also find out that Evermere's mom calls him Honeybee, which delights Tadek.
That's cute.
It's really cute, but it's so random. Like, there's no explanation except for like he's busy all the time.
I think it's the fact that he is so stolid, but he has a cute little nickname.
Yeah.
Eozina comes by and says that the Kailar are in disarray with the not being able to trust each other thing. Zeliha is still being a dick to Kado, but also to Cyrano a little bit. Eozina says that she thinks the spy master is loyal, and he gave her some intel that they think they found the workshop for the counterfeits on an island in the harbor. She asks for several Kailar to go with her, and Pinar, who is Zeliha's personal Kaya, Evamir, and Tadek all prepare themselves. They get to the island in the harbor and find a little building built into a rocky hill with only an opening on the top, it seems, so no light can get out. Or at least that's the one spot they can reach. So Evamir and Pinar are precariously balanced, like using each other's counterweights to peek in, and they see it as indeed forges smelting gold and silver. Evamir hears yelling and sees Cyranos. He slips in kind of like shock, and him and Pinar fall, and everyone hears them. They all start running for their boat, but when the attackers catch up, they turn and they fight. Some dumbass lights a flare, which fucks up everyone's night vision, and Evamir sees it is Cyranos, who definitely knows it's Evamir now. The others see him too. They make their way back to the ship and start rowing. Tadek got clipped in the calf by an arrow, and Eozina took an arrow straight through the thigh. Tadek and Evamir bicker about who gets to row, and Tadek calls him Honeybee, and Eozina tells them that she's going to kill them both. And you know what? If she does that, then Kadu will cry, so shut up.
I love that everyone just treats Kato like a big baby.
I love even more that this is like a drama sequence, right? Like this is like high tension. I mean, they're like we have this Three Stooges comedy happening at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's like not a comedy, but it's funny.
Yeah.
They make it back to Evamir's mother's house, and Kadu hides until the doctor leaves, and then he yells at everyone for taking too many risks. They try to leave, and Dordona, who is Evamir's mom, tells them about how Evamir was like a little busy bee when he was young and how he never had time to bring anyone home. After she helps Eozina get to bed, Tadek is like, wait, what? Never? No one? And it's a cute conversation where we learn that Melik once caught a 16-year-old Evamir making out with a rough and tumble cadet that everyone else was scared of. Evamir is sort of put out by this conversation and said that it didn't go anywhere anyway. And Tadek says, this is a quote, Tadek says, "You didn't get as far as hand jobs? I mean, why would you?" Melik mumbled sagely. You don't know where that's been.
You don't. No one does.
Yeah, fair point. Long story short, they realize that Evamir is a 27-year-old virgin. Bless him.
I was mad giggling during this scene. Like, I just keep saying it, but it's just the perfect description. Tadek is so messy. He's always just getting everyone's business. I live for it, though.
Yeah. So Kadu has been torn through this conversation, wanting to tell everyone to be more respectful, but also really wanting to know for himself. There's a thread running through this that all of the Kailar are just massive gossips.
Yeah.
He has Evamir come upstairs to help him get ready for bed and then asks him to sleep in the room too. Kadu finally fully accepts that he's into Evamir, but is like, oh God, I can't fuck another Kaya, and this is one of Usmim's trials that I will overcome. Next day, Eozina has a fever. This means basically no one is in charge at the palace.
Yikes.
Zeliha asks what they learned, and Evamir admits that they can all confirm Cyranos was there. Zeliha takes a moment to collect herself and then says that she needs to go to the palace to make sure the dynasty stays in control. That if she dies, Aina rules with Kado as her advisor. She apologizes to Kado for not believing him, then turns to Evamir, makes him kneel, and swear that he will do everything in his power to protect Kado. She gives him the privilege of disobedience, so he doesn't have to listen to Kado.
Yeah.
Evamir is in awe of how majestic she is.
I mean, she made mistakes with Cyranos, but I liked her here.
Yeah,
honestly,
same.
She pulled it together.
She's an HBIC.
Afterward, Kado asks about it, and Evamir swears his loyalty to him both as his Kaya and as himself.
Evamir, his just blatant pining through this whole scene was so good.
Mm-hmm. Kato wants to go back to the seedy incense lounge, and after much arguing, Evamir agrees. Melik waits outside. Their disguises aren't great because, they were at his mom's house. And service is taking like a really long time for some reason. So Kadu tucks himself closer and closer into Evamir, trying not to be noticed. Then Cyrano comes in and sits down at the bar. Evamir and Kado are like, we should do like before and make out. So they do. Eventually Cyrano leaves, and when they try to exit, Cyrano and a bunch of mercenaries stop them. Turns out he did notice them making out.
I'm like, boys, this only works one time in a book.
Right.
And only with people who don't know you.
Yeah. Also, Kato was killing me here. He was like, oh my god, Evamir has only kissed one other person like 10 years ago, but he's learning so fast.
After a brief fight, Kadu and Evamir are taken hostage. They go to a house in a richer district and are taken into a room with Sylvia and Azuto Melikrinos. Cyrano rants at Kadu for getting too involved. Then they suggest ransoming him to the Sultan. Evamir knows he's about to be killed, as unimportant to the situation, so he just stares at Kadu and lets himself yearn. Kadu, meanwhile, is sweaty and thinking fast. He claims that Evamir is secret police and noble, which, remember, is rare in this country because all their nobles died on a boat.
I forgot about that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Start laughing.
Did not remember.
And that he can be ransomed too. The Oisiks are interested but suspicious, so they decide to call in the Satyota, which is the truth teller. Mm-hmm. Kadu drags Evamir across the room and whispers that the only way they can fool the truth censor is to make Evamir actual nobility, and the only way that he can think to do that right now is to marry Evamir, which he can officiate as royalty.
I was not expecting the fake marriage trope, but I'm delighted that it's here. Mm-hmm, it's also one of my other favorite tropes.
I had thoughts about this.
Yeah.
Which is not like, at this point, I was a little bit like, why is this here? Can we not do this right now?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. I was like, I couldn't.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Get married. Get fake married right now.
But they were in a corner and no one's like, hey, what are you guys doing over there?
I know. Yeah. Like the whole thing was very like, are you going to do this now?
Yeah. It's
really?
almost
Are
like,
you gonna...
it's almost like they're bad at crime.
Everyone here is incompetent.
Yeah.
So Evamir catches on quickly, and they go through the marriage vows hurriedly, like whispering in the corner of the room. The Satyota comes in and asks him to confirm he is nobility and asks for his name with titles. He is now Daimat Evamir Hoshkadem Mahesti Est Bey Effendi, Prince of Arast, Duke Consort of Altinbashi Ili, Lord Consort of Shiria and Nadrin Tepe, Warden Consort of the Northern Marches.
Jesus, that was impressive.
Thank you.
Did you practice that?
A little bit. She's like, yep, that's right, and leaves.
Dude, she's such a weird character. I kind of love it.
I like
Yeah.
her.
She just like reminds me of like a little drunk grandma.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Cyrnos is giving them a heavy side eye and seems to kind of half realize that they must be married to each other, but he's too stupid to confirm it. He never really wanted to learn this culture.
Right.
So they get locked in a stinky wine cellar, and Kadu is like, sorry. And Evamir tells him to stop, that it was the only other option. It would have been to let Evamir die. And Kadu is such a wonderful person that he now entangled himself with this peasant in order to prevent that. A quote, "I'm your Kaya," Evamir said in a low voice, "and Her Majesty the Sultan of Arast gave me the privilege of disobedience. What power you have over me comes from what I've given to you, and from the oaths I willingly swore to you."
Oof. Swoon.
Mm-hmm. As they talk, they get closer and closer before confessing that they're like totes into each other and start hardcore making out.
Yes.
Evamir picks him up and presses him into the wall, and Kadu wraps his legs around Evamir.
Okay.
They grind for a while before Kadu says stop and pushes him off. Evamir's worried, but Kadu explains the difference between an annulment and a divorce is whether a marriage has been consummated. So if they have sex, they will need to have a lengthy public divorce. And Evamir is like, your reputation. And Kadu is like, your career. And they agree they can't fuck until after the annulment. Then they can go to town.
Okay. All right. So here's where I was a little bit like, okay, so you're fake married now, which is now an obstacle to sex. All right. Okay. But like, For fuck's sake, they married themselves, which is highly suspicious. Like, even an ordained person needs another ordained person to marry them. Like, you can't.
In our world.
Yeah, in
True.
our world, but in most worlds, that's how it works. Because, like, you also need witnesses for it to be legal. Otherwise, society just falls apart because people keep saying shit happened that didn't.
Cyrano and Sylvia were in that other corner.
Right, they were there. They were in the room. So, like, plus, okay, here's my other thing. Like, so you mean annulment rules are for hetero people usually, where babies are a worry. And like, this is a society that does it matter for them realistically? Because would the rule exist where hetero relations aren't centered, women can decide whether or not to give a father parental rights? Like, is that something that would logically be a thing?
Yeah. No. Yeah, I was also thinking that the annulment thing due to no consummation feels like a stretch. Like, I feel like we could have just cut that out. Like, keep the fact that, like, the vintage prince is coming to marry Kato, like, that line can stay in order to make them think that, like, they need an annulment so that, you know, Kato can, like, marry this prince for, like, political reasons or whatever. And then also keep the fact that Evamir's a virgin, but like add in something about how like he wanted to save himself for like his one true love or some baloney like that. And then we could get the same level of pining, but just not this like weird, maybe Mpreg is implied. Like, you know?
No. See, I wanted them to just have sex here. Like, no one else can be in the room. Just have sex.
Yeah.
Just have it. Because we need to break the tension somehow just a little bit. And then you can pine about something else. Like, is it real? Can we actually do this together? Like, then you can, like, shift the pining to something else. Because then I'm just like, there's just too much pining about the same thing. Pine about something else
you people have no sense of romantic tension.
Hey.
That's not true at all, but okay.
We're keeping the pining in here. We're just changing it a little bit.
Evamir feels around the walls and realizes that the door opens inward. He teases Kato that he needs a wedding gift and hands him the pins from the door. Then he lifts the door enough for them to get out. Kato can tell the pins are iron, but other than some hints of their origin, the overwhelming sense is now of their grinding session against the door. Kato realizes that this is just what iron feels like to him now.
It feels like Evamir.
Yes. So they're discussing how to get past another locked door when it's opened by Tenzin, the Satyota. Kato immediately declares that she should come with them because the Sultan has need of her services. She makes Evamir repeat it to confirm it's true, because remember, she can tell. She says that she fucking hates Cyrano and Sylvia, but would the Sultan pay her fare? Kato says yes, and then confirms that what she has been being paid is in counterfeit coins. She's like, well, fuck them. And drinking from a bottle of wine, toddles after the two of them as they try to sneak out. They hear a crash from inside the house and then fucking book it.
Actually really loved her. Like her like attitude about the whole thing was just like, boys, we will get there when we get there.
Yeah.
Treat the bottle of wine with respect.
Right. Again, drunk grandma.
So they make it back to Dordona's house with Tenzin. Tadak immediately notices that she calls both of them Highness. He asks Evamir if he's a noble. He says no. Tenzin says that's a lie. They tell Tenzin to shut up or she'll be dismissed, and Evamir grabs Tadak and dunks him under the water pump until he agrees to stop asking. Kadu, meanwhile, composes 2 letters, one to the harbor master and one to his sister. They want to take the Satyota to the Sultan, but first, sleep. Evamir gets into bed with Kadu, and at first they erotically touch hands and then kiss, but then they separate, because remember, no penetration.
This was like very much Mr. Darcy's hand in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, but like more.
Kadu wakes up and immediately feels guilty because Melik hasn't returned. And here he is erotically touching hands.
I was gaslighting myself into thinking that Malik or Tadak was going to be a part of this counterfeit plot somehow, as I said earlier. No evidence as to how or why. I just like wanted it to be a little less straightforward.
Yeah, it's a very, very straightforward plot.
Yeah.
This person did it. You knew this in the first chapter.
Done. Let's get back to the romance.
So he, Evamir, and Tenzin go to the palace and are met by Zeliha. They immediately put Tenzin to work interrogating the Kayalar, and Zeliha tells Kadu his quarters have been moved because of the attack. He's now deep, 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 deep into the gold court.
It sounds like an exhausting disaster to me.
Yeah, it sounded like a fucking mess to get to. The next day, they head back to Sylvia's townhouse. They're packed up and fled, of course, but they search the warren of cellars and find Melik beaten and tied up. They said they followed them, Evamir and Kadu, but then got captured. Kadu sends Kaya to guard the roads out of the city. They get back to the palace, and Zeliha is in business mode. She says they're having a dinner to show everyone that House Mahisti is fine, just fine. Also, she will be looking to Kado to repair relations with the Kailar after this, since he's so close to them with the fucking whatnot.
And apparently half of them are corrupt.
Yeah.
It's a whole problem.
Also organize a parade for midsummer for the city.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. So Kadu comes back from dinner exhausted, and Evamir goes off to bathe. And it's in this moment that he realizes he's in love with Kadu, like fucking duh. But then he realizes the implications too, that Evamir's never going to marry or have children of his own, but that Kadu might. And what will he do then? He tries to deal with this, declines sleeping on Kadu's bed, but takes the divan instead.
He does what anyone does when they realize you have like the crushing reality of liking someone who might not like you back. You have an existential crisis, and then you go to bed.
Mm-hmm. Tadak is going crazy trying to figure out what's going on. Kadu's told him to schedule a meeting for the temple because he has business there. But since it's a holiday soon, it will take several weeks. Evamir wakes up and goes to the temple and chats with like the equivalent to whatever like a monk or a Sherpa or a priest is there. He asks about an annulment and confesses his feelings as well.
Dude, finding a good therapist is life-changing, and I'm glad that Evamir has found one.
Mm-hmm. He comes back while Tadak and Kadu are planning the parade, and Tadak is so close to uncovering the truth that Kadu just leads him right to it. Tadak thinks that this is the best and funniest thing that has ever happened. He is beside himself with glee that these two are secret married. Out of spite, Evamir asks what Kadu considers real sex and if there are loopholes.
Yes, the good what counts as third base discussion. What do you all consider each of the bases?
So my memory of this conversation from like literally junior high is kissing is first, upper body touching is second, lower body touching is third, and like I don't mean legs. Let's not get
I know
cute.
what you mean. Yeah.
And all the way is fourth.
Tabitha?
I think first base is kissing and over the clothes touching. I think second base is under the clothes touching, whatever that might mean.
Yeah.
And then third base is oral.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to put this in tiers. All of it is sex if you consider it to be sex.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask me what the bases mean, then that's it.
Well, that's what I asked you, so.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page as you. First is like kissing and then second base is any sort of like fingering or like hand jobbing, and then third base oral of any sort. Fourth base, you did it. The D, the P and the V, or the
P and V, or
P and A,
and B,
P and V.
Oh,
something and
I
something.
said P and A.
P and A.
Yeah.
I'm finding that my Southern upbringing was much different than yours.
Yeah.
Later, Kadu peeks in on the quickie trial they're having for Cyranos, Sylvia, and Azuta, who have all been captured. Zeliha basically tells them they are scum and to confess where they sent their shipments to. Tenzin is there to make sure they stay honest. That's our whole resolution with them. Because again, like I said, plot's not important.
They were
here.
captured off page. We will immediately dispense of them. They are no longer important.
And we don't care what happens to them.
Honestly,
Bye.
they were never important. So let's just,
Yeah, like I said, they were just a vehicle for our other characters that we like to build character.
Yep.
Eventually, it is midsummer. Kadu spends the day first in a parade, then at a royal party, and then at a Kailar party. That night, he struggles to sleep and has another anxiety attack that he kind of deals with himself. He thinks over the last few days and the sex negotiations. This is what they decide on. For Evamir, he's allowed to be fully clothed above the waist, touching with hands and kissing. And for Kadu, did you read this also as like blowjobs? What was Evamir doing to
To be
him?
honest, I was so confused.
Yeah, I don't really know. There was a lot of like
It's
negotiations.
deliberately vague.
I read it. I read it that the one time they did something, it was like Evamir was like sitting behind Kato, and Kato was like giving masturbating, and Evamir was just kissing him, and like that was it. That was all that was allowed.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Kado's allowed to touch himself while Evamir touches him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
but
right.
like
that might be
he can't help in the proceedings.
It can't be. It can't be reciprocated.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
He's
Evamir,
like, I can watch you and I can be next to you when it happens.
Yeah.
But that's it.
So yeah, Evamir will not let Kado reciprocate in any way, and it starts to make Kado feel kind of weird, and so they say no sex for now. He does the anxiety thing of solving problems that might not even be an issue. He's like, after the annulment, I'll distance myself from Evermere, and that will be best. Which is the exact behavior that he told Evermere to ignore him doing back when they decided to do this. He was basically like, I'm going to be weird about this. Don't let me. So Kadu is having breakfast with Zeliha, who is trying to casually play off how much her baby daddy fucked her up.
Poor baby.
She says she'll probably never marry. And Kadu is basically like, don't say that. Who knows what could happen? What about that Vintish guy? You wanted another kid with him, right? And Zeliha says, what? The Vint was for you. I thought being married could be a hobby for you. Kadu looks at Evermere, who's, guarding him, and who looks openly wretched about this conversation.
Yeah. This is the part, and also the chapter before it, is where I texted you because I was like pausing to literally screech in my apartment like a pterodactyl. Evermere does not deserve any of this pain. Just like,
No, he
let
really
him be
doesn't.
loved.
He's like a teddy bear. Just like leave him alone.
I know. He's just like a cute dog who did nothing wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. So Kadu makes an excuse and leaves. He takes Evermere to an enclosed area of a walled garden and tells Tadek to keep everyone the fuck out for a while. Kadu admits that he will not marry the Vint. He will not marry anyone because he wants to stay married to Evermere.
Yay.
Evermere agrees, but immediately moves to plotting how to soft launch this information to everybody else, like over the next couple months.
Yeah.
And Kadu is like, oh, I thought maybe we could have sex. And Evermere's like, here? But yes.
Can you, like, TEDx just out there?
Yeah. Well, that's what they keep doing,
I
right?
know,
There's
I
always
know,
someone outside the door.
I know it has to be like that. But during this whole scene, I was like, I'm enjoying this. But in the back of my mind, I was like, oh my God, Tadek is just sitting there.
There's no privacy in this universe.
Honestly, this just tracks for medieval life to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
It
never
really
got
is. Like,
privacy.
either there's someone in the room with you just watching, like with a
Yeah.
handkerchief in case you need one, or like outside the door being
need,
like,
like-
I have snacks.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
me know when you need me.
Yeah, exactly.
TEDx should have walked in with wet naps after this.
He probably did.
So Kadu falls to his knees and Evermere says, no, the grass stains. And Kadu says, are you fucking serious? And then blows Evermere.
Yes.
Kadu comes in his pants. So come and grass now.
A terrible mix, I'm sure.
I literally do not want to think about who's doing his laundry. But now that I have, I'm thinking about it. So.
I don't even know how to get grass stains out.
I don't
so
think you do
I
in
would
that
just
universe. I think you just throw them
pants
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's rich.
True.
They agree to keep the marriage secret for 4 to 6 months, except Tadek, obviously.
Yeah.
And joke about Evermere having to learn how to be political and social now. Tadek greets them with this quote, oh, for fuck's sake, did you even try to put yourselves back together?
This is like a weird sorority.
Yeah, I know. I feel like Tadek just like opens the door while they're both like cuddled together
Yeah.
still, like pants down, you know?
Yeah. He's like, I'm here with the wet
And they're
naps.
just like, yeah. Exactly.
Also, Tadek has been reinstated as a Kaihalar, but is choosing to stay as an armsman, which personally I don't get, but whatever. I'm not him. He's got his own reasons. Kadu gives Evermere a letter to post and ask him to take the 2 hinge pins from the cellar that he's still carrying around and have the palace blacksmith, melt them into rings or bracelets.
Oh my God. What
So the sensation of their love will always be on their skin.
Oh my God. When the hinge pins fell out of his pocket a chapter ago, I like literally squealed, and now he's making rings out of them. So, oh my God, this book is too much. It's so sweet.
So then Kadu goes to talk to Zeliha alone. He tells Zeliha that he won't marry the Vint. She's disappointed, but more as a sister trying to matchmake her brother, not as a monarch. Like they have pretty solid relationship with this place. He says he's going to spend a few months in his rural territory to help bring in the harvest, and that he's taking his guards with them. The end.
Such a fucking weird ending. It just stops.
I know.
Like I looked up the deal announcement for this. Like Tor bought it and a future standalone novel, which could be a companion to this, like focusing on Zeliha. I'm hoping because she
Yeah.
says that thing, I'll never love again, and like, bitch, I dare you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and I want to see it happen. And also, what is your response? Please tell me to everything
Yeah,
that's just happened that you don't know about that you're about to find out. I want to know.
Honestly, I hope the Vint shows up that she thought would be good for her brother, but
Same.
he's actually bisexual. And she
Oh
gets
my
with him.
God, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. That would be perfect.
That would be
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Okay, so wrap up. What did we think?
I think what I liked most about this is how lush the world was. Everything was beautifully described. And I really love fantasy worlds that aren't like heteronormative now, and that's happening more and more in books that I've been reading that are like high fantasy, and that's really cool. And overall, that was awesome. But this book was really slow for me.
Yeah.
When I looked it back up and that was 500 pages, I was like, why is it 500 pages and 16 chapters? What is happening here? The romance is nice. I thought it hit like all the right beats as far as like love stories go. And I thought the pining was great. But then that fake marriage happened. And like, I got so mad because I was like, no, please just have sex. And then like, we can agonize over that. Like, so the ending was really weird, and I wasn't like sure how logical it would be at that point. I mean, I liked how it ended, and they decided that they were going to be together, and that was great. But then it was just like, we're going to just kind of mosey on off to our winter home or whatever. And I was like, this is so weird. But yeah, I think it was mainly like the external plot structure that Caged in was like really simple and sparse for me. And I was expecting more palace intrigue, and I got like the obvious one did it. And I don't remember what his motives were even. Like, why did he do it? I was so confused.
Because he's dumb.
Yeah. So, like, and he was right there, right? He was right there on the position of attaining immense power if he could just play his cards right. And then he just threw it all away. And I mean, like, I just wanted to understand more about that.
I think that was his own, like, personal
issues.
Yeah, there's a whole side story that we didn't go into about how like aristocratic families in Oisos had a lot of like killing each other siblings betraying each other. So he was like really primed to think that Kato was
gonna do some shit.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely had like a hard time understanding their culture, and he was bringing his own into that problem. So I understand that, but like. I also wanted to understand more about the breaking into the Shipbuilders Guild to get the information on navigating the sea serpent problem, because I was like, wouldn't the whole world be better off knowing this? And does this make Cyrannus the hero?
I don't know. That makes you sound kind of like a communist.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, that's proprietary knowledge.
So I...
also, her new book. That's what it's about.
Okay.
The author has a new book set in the same world.
Interesting.
And it's like a pirate sort of story about the sea serpents.
Okay. But are they going to steal the knowledge and like...
I'm not sure. It's none of the characters from this one. I think it has a female lead.
Okay. Got it.
Or maybe gender neutral. I can't remember.
Yeah. I don't know. It ends really abruptly, and I was just like, why? Why is this happening? And I really thought it could have been about 400 pages instead of 500, but that's just me.
Fair.
Yeah. Listen, I loved it. Like, I would have given it 6 stars if I could have. This had, like, Mr. Darcy level pining, but even more so because we got to, like, pine along with them, if that makes sense. It was really romantic, and Kato and Evermere are just, like, so good, for lack of a better term. I completely agree with Maura. The external plot and conflict was, like, totally basic and boring. I mean this in the nicest way. This is truly not a dig at all, okay?
Oh, I've talked so much shit about the books you guys like.
I know, but it really, like, this is like a really, really good fan fiction. A lot of the things that I found lacking or like superfluous are also like what I see a lot in fan fiction, like a weak plot to engineer, like our pairing just into certain situations, too many intricate details that don't really like add a lot to the story, or kind of the world building at times. Like, did we need to know the specific subjects that Kato like tutored the college kids in? No. A weak villain, because like in the fan fiction, we already know who the like villain is and who's evil, so like we don't need them to have any motivation, right? Like, obviously Voldemort's evil, and like no matter what context, right? And then like a random sub conflict at basically the end of the book, because we aren't ready to give up that sweet unresolved tension yet. Like, we could have had Evermere spiral into despair at not being like for real married to Kato, and like the vintage prince then like comes in, like arranged marriage, blah 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 blah. That didn't need to be there. Like, it's a pretty common practice among royalty to like marry people for political reasons. Like, that is a perfect thing to just put in there. We could have cut out a bunch of things, and like he still has a really good reason for these like spirals, right? Anyways, with all that said, I loved it. I want to read more from this author. If she has it, sounds like she does. I'm very excited about that pirate romance. None of this was like a mood killer for me or like really made it drag on. Like, the chapters where it's like just pages of bullshit, I was like, yeah, this is like, it's interesting, but I don't need you to talk about who's on what schedule. You know? I just hope that Kato and Evermere live happily ever after, because they deserve it.
Yeah, I do. I want them to live happily ever after, and that's what I wanted to see.
Yeah.
At the end there,
Yeah, like
I
an
didn't want
epilogue.
like a little bit like I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Dot.
Yeah. I needed an epilogue chapter if that was how it ended.
Yeah, but I think you're totally right about the fan fiction thing, and probably why I had a hard time with the length of the book.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it does read a bit like a really long fanfic.
Yeah,
And
which
you know
I
how
love.
I want
I
like
know.
a 50,000 word fanfic. I don't
Yeah.
want like a 200,000 word long fanfic.
Those are my fave.
And that's just my burden to carry. So anyway, that's just because I'm an antsy person. It's not this book's problem. It's a me problem.
Tabitha.
I am the one who asked us to read it because I read it back in 2022 and I liked it so much. While I have no issues with the fantasy worlds that are very clearly based on Northern Europe, you know, things like Lord of the Rings, Song of Ice and Fire, ACOTAR, I really like when they mix it up with a different culture. So I really like the setting for this one. I also really enjoyed that the romance was pretty slow and mostly described in their own heads.
Yeah.
I thought the dialogue was very well written and it was funny without having to rely too much on modern style language, you know, like no mention of them being endgame.
Oh God, thank God for that.
Yeah, truly. No one said awesome once.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, it was
None of that.
I fully admit that it was low on plot. And it really felt like this author was using this book to set up subsequent books and the larger world that they are in. Like I have a plan to read the other two books that are out now. There's a novella called Tadic and the Princess that I have on hold.
Oh.
I think it's like Tadic's origin story.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a prequel.
And then of course the Sea Serpent book.
Yeah.
But I really do hope that we get a resolution to their secret marriage because I want to know what happens when
Yeah.
Zelliha finds out.
Yeah, that's how I
Yeah.
wanted this book to end. I
And
wanted him
either-
to be like, by the way, I'm married. And
Yeah.
she's just like, you scamp.
And it's just going to be like, it's one of those fucking Kylar, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's all I wanted That's all I wanted from the book at the
Yeah.
very end. Just like, just let her know.
Here's what I think. I think it should have ended either with him being like, Tadek, please go take these rings or these iron hinges and make rings for us. Boom. And so then we could be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, you know, kind of like let us imagine. Or after he tells, oh my God, why did I forget what her name is? His sister. We need another chapter. Or like that chapter needs to be
Or
expanded.
just a short epilogue, something to
that's
wrap
what
it
I mean.
up.
Yeah.
And give me some closure.
Yeah. It was kind of like
I need some romantic closure.
yeah, this is my rough draft for the last chapter. If it's good enough.
Okay, so who are we? I will start. I am Milik, I would say. Not just the complete lack of interest in romance, but that what they like about their job is having a million tiny little skills.
Yeah.
Man, I liked Iozina. She's so exasperated all the time. And I'm like, I would respect that.
Yeah. I'm going to say I'm Tadek. I love knowing other people's business and I love drama when I'm not directly involved with it. Like I spend, I don't know, 40% of my workday just listening to my coworkers bitch about other people. And then I just gasp and laugh in the right places. And I was like, wow, that's so hard for you. Tell me more. But I am not the Village Bicycle. Okay.
No.
If you have a hot take or book you would like us to recap, you can message us on our socials. You can find the links in our show notes. If you like us, please rate us and leave reviews. That makes us so happy. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.